Just testing the audio. Anybody can just. Yeah, don't worry.
Feedback.
Just turn off your. Perfect.
Right, are we live?
Yes, we are.
We got some feedback from some members.
No, we somewhere heard it.
Good evening, members, and anybody new that's not been here before. Welcome to the 22nd Rrva AGM. My name is Rod Rankin. I'm going to take my mask off now, and we are going to spend the next 2 hours telling you about what we've done in the last year. Just a note to start with. You can follow the PowerPoint presentation if you go onto the WhatsApp broadcast group. We've posted the link to the PowerPoint presentation in the WhatsApp broadcast group. So you can follow the slides as I talk and just look on your cell phone. There's the agenda for tonight. That's the next slide. I'll just let you scroll through with your eyes quickly. And the first item here is apologies. Sorry. Apologies from Stephen Sudi. Very sensitive. Apologies from Stephen Sudi from our Environment and Infrastructure Committee. He's stuck in Cape Town. He's got a job in Cape Town at the moment. Stephen, if you're listening to us live, good evening. And Jennifer McQuillan, who can't be with us in person, but she's going to be following us streaming. Just a note on what we are and where we are for anybody that's new. Our operating area exists between, it's bounded by the roads Beyers-Naudé, the N1 highway, Rrva Road, Eysterhout, and from Eysterhout to Malopi. So we're a residents association, we're a non-profit, we're a Section 18A non-profit organization, which means that any donations that our members give to us are tax deductible. They can deduct them from income tax before tax, and in that way save some money on income tax. And I'm just going to say a few words on the chairman's report, chairperson's report. The directors have all changed since last year, except myself. I'm the longest standing director at the moment. All of those people you see in the photograph were at the AGM last year. Clive Granville, Eliane Dubuisson, Wayne Ketz, Tanya Schmitz. Those directors have all resigned, and we have a couple of new directors. On my left is Heather Mannion, she's our Chief Financial Officer, and to my right here, sitting on the high chair, is Quinton Robertson, who's just joined us in the last week as a director. And then I'd just like to introduce committee members. Barrett Stewart on my right here, he's the head of security, and Robin Bergman on my far left, she heads up our care committee. And then tonight we've got with us as well Donna Hutchinson and Kirsten Lowe, who are our administrators.
Robert, if you want to just go one side and just keep to the left of that wheel, as well, if you got to go back to the
okay. Right. Now, just a note, a couple of important things, big happenings since last year. We've lost a lot of members this year. Last year at the AGM in May, we had approximately 500 members out of 1,150 households. We now have about 384 members, 328 ordinary members and 41 pensioners. So that's a decline of 23%. And since January this year, we've lost 152 members due to cancellations. And when we analyze the reasons for those losses, 36% told us they were due to financial reasons, and I think it's logical to conclude that a lot of that is distress, financial distress due to COVID-19. 28% were due to us separating from CSS, and 11% moved out of the suburb, which is, I suppose, normal in a year. 11% move out and 11% move in. The main focus since the last AGM has been a complete overhaul of our corporate governance documents. We now have a Memorandum of Incorporation to replace what used to be called the Articles of Association. And this Memorandum of Association and all the other corporate governance documents we have are designed to be compliant with the Companies Act. We had to invest a big sum of money, about 100,000 Rand, drafting corporate governance documents. They were tailor-made for our residents association so that they complied with the Companies Act, and also they were compliant with the King 4 report. And we've tried our best to run the RRVA in accordance with this good governance, with the principles and transparency. This is the first AGM we've ever done with the new Memorandum of Incorporation. So please forgive us if we don't get it absolutely right. We've resolved some serious conflicts of interests, and we've corrected some irregularities, and we've removed all perverse incentives to maximize expenditure. And we're very proud to say that we now have our own office at the Spar Shopping Centre between the Curry Place and Angelo's Pizza Restaurant. It's a tiny little narrow office, and we got this office because we needed to employ administrators to help us run the RRVA. The volunteers found they were unable to handle all the administration that goes with running an organization that's compliant with all the legislation. They needed a place to work. We also needed a place to put tools for our workers who work in the parks. We had previously asked people to keep them in their garages, and we had problems. We found that we really needed an office, and we needed a domicilium for records and for legal purposes. We needed a physical address. So we now have this office. And we took a resolution to rent this office. We also took a resolution to employ the two ladies. And you can see them in the photograph there, standing outside the office door. On the left is Donna Hutchinson, and on the right is Kirsten Lowe. And Donna spends most of her time doing bookkeeping and that sort of administration. And Kirsten her emphasis is on recruiting new members. And that's been a tough call during COVID. And they've really only just found their feet. They've only really had 6 months, if you deduct the time that we were closed for COVID. And they are starting to work really well. And if you haven't already met them, I'd urge you to come into the office and meet with them. They might give you a little gift or something if you do. But we really want you to come in and make use of the office. You can also contact Kirsten or Donna if you see a municipal infrastructure problem, and you can report it to them, and they'll make sure it gets to the right department in the city of Joburg, and they'll follow through until it's fixed. Now, the new Memorandum of Incorporation, I'll just say a few words. It's a long document. It's like our Bible. It's what we use as a manual to run the organization. As I said, it complies with the Companies Act and King 4. And it limits the powers of directors. So, it goes along with the ethos and philosophy that power must always be subject to scrutiny. We've tried to make it as watertight as possible to prevent, as far as possible, people abusing their powers. But of course, there's nothing to stop people abusing their powers in the future. But you just have some leverage if they do. You've got something to contest their practices. It's also designed to be member-centric. We focus on the needs of the community. And it was approved by the members at a special general meeting. Some of you will remember on the 10th of June last year. And if anybody hasn't seen it, it's available on our website all hours of the day. there's the website address, www.rrva.net. You can go and download it or read it. The other corporate documents are listed there. I'm not going to bore you with all of them, but those are all the things that we need. For example, every one of our committees, there's 4 committees, it has terms of reference, and it sets out what we may and may not do, what our obligations are, what our responsibilities are, and we try our best to follow that. Sometimes we might err, but when we do, we can refer back and we can correct. We've had some other improvements. We now have 9 WhatsApp broadcast groups dedicated to members. These broadcast groups allow us to communicate exclusively with our members and nobody else. And if you reply on the WhatsApp broadcast group, your reply goes straight to the admin, and it doesn't inconvenience all the other members, which we see as a bonus. It prevents social media getting out of hand and a downward spiral of negativity. We've installed 5 community notice boards. Admittedly, 2 of them are back-to-back, and these are chalk boards where we can chalk up information. For example, tonight's AGM was chalked up on the notice boards. We've provided this area with a new security service provider. Barrett's going to talk more about that just now. And we're working on welcome packs for new residents to tell them about the area, give them information that might be useful, and then welcome packs for new members, something that we've not done before. And some people after me might talk more about those. Now, I'm going to hand over to Barrett Stewart at this point, who's going to talk to you about security. Barrett is our security head. He heads up the security committee.
Thanks, Mark. Evening, everyone. I'm just going to briefly go through the appointment process from our previous meeting that we had. I'll just briefly go through that. So in June, the Rrva put the security provider appointments out on tender. We had 17 companies that were invited. Of those 17, 10 submitted and 7 of them declined. On the 2nd of July, we had a live stream Q&A with our members just to discuss the way forward. It was basically just to get a little bit more information from our members as well. On the 10th of July, we closed the tender with extension to certain suppliers. Then our committee had the opportunity to evaluate all the tenders independently. Our valuation was determined by following factors: compliance, technical, and financial. On the 27th of July, our committee met via Zoom, where we presented where our findings were presented. We managed to conclude our technical and compliance evaluation, which led to a shortlist of the top 4 candidates. The 28th of July, the security committee individually met with the top 4 companies over Teams to get clarity on each of their submissions. They were given an opportunity to provide feedback at the close of the business by the following day. After receiving responses from the security companies, we managed to continue with the financial evaluation, which led to the best offer being selected, which was EC Security. On the 1st of August 2020, EC were deployed on a temporary basis for the first month, obviously while we're going through the voting process. There's just a deployment of EC in the area. Then some of the EC services that they provide, they've been in operation for 23 years. They've got over 700 employees. They do armed response, alarm monitoring, guarding, CCTV and offsite monitoring, technical services, VIP protection, special events, roadside assist, and emergency medical, which is vital med. We have provided contact details to EC, their control room. The Rrva dedicated car cell number is only available to members. That's why it's not on this presentation. But if you are a member, you will be able to get that from us. If you haven't got it yet, you can just simply contact us. Then if you're an Rrva member, you'll get a if you decide to sign up with EC, you'll get armed response monitoring. This is now separate to the dedicated car in the area at 265 Rand per month, including VAT. That's quite a substantial drop from what's out there in terms of competition. Suggest you have a look at that. We are going to be having a presentation from EC side very soon as well. That's more than likely going to happen within the next week or two. We'll give you some more information on that, where they will discuss more about their solution, their offer, their specials, and so forth. Then one of the biggest things we had to do this year was we really needed to get into our cameras. So we conducted a CCTV inspection. We were supposed to do the inspection in March 2020, but unfortunately due to COVID-19, it was delayed until later this year. We were only able to conduct that investigation in the last month or so. So on the 4th of September this year, we requested login details from our previous supplier, login details, passwords, specs, and everything we could get on the system. Although it was installed through the RVA, some of us are new to the board, so we wanted to go through those inspections to see if everything's in order, are they still working? And the response from the supplier was that we weren't able to, it wasn't such a simple process to do that, and some of the sites are linked to the client's alarm systems. There was just all sorts of things that denied us access to the systems that our members paid for. So we decided to conduct that investigation on our own. During our investigation, we found, unfortunately, things that were not looking so great. We had rusting poles. We had enclosure boxes that were looking discolored. This is now an installation from 3 years ago. We found one site that had no CCTV system on it at all. When we were able to actually locate the CCTV system, we found that it was sitting with one of the residents that was previously at this house. And when we actually got onto that system, we found out that that system had recordings on it from October 2019, sorry, from August 2019 to October 2019. So that system has been offline for the last year, which is obviously disappointing for us because the supplier was paid to monitor these systems and there obviously wasn't monitoring happening. Some of the night vision that we've pulled out from the footage, we could see that there was poor maintenance. In any monitoring company, you expect spider webs to be pointed out, if not reported and cleaned off. That's something that can be easily rectified. The vision on some of these cameras have been really dreadful. We are looking at seeing what we're going to do about those. This is footage that we pulled off one of the DVRs, which is a recording system from October the 1st, 2019. You'll note that the two people walking the streets are not wearing masks. We also have shown in the presentation the actual footage dates that was available on the system on the bottom right of that picture. There's also a clear indication of the date of the footage in the top left-hand corner. Then other things that led us to some disappointments were actual positioning of cameras. We're not quite sure why some of these cameras were positioned in the way that they are at the moment. This particular example of the tree is just an unacceptable installation. Whether there was plans of moving the tree or thought of moving the tree at a later stage, that's just not something you do. You must work around the tree and work around what you've got. On this particular site, all the cameras that are facing the street are absolutely useless to us to use, so we'll get to that now. Then conducting our conclusion on our assessment, we could not really find any evidence of any system linked to any client's alarm system or any evidence of these systems being managed off-site by our previous security supplier. We found one site, as I said, that we found footage on, which I've just mentioned, from August to October, from 2019. So there's been no footage. These systems only carry max about 3 months of footage and under. So it's a clear indication that the system has been offline for a year, or at least to August 2020. Then the general installations that we looked at, there was very poor quality in terms of the installations all around, poor technical installations and poor deployment. Some of the cameras are obviously facing the trees, and some of the cameras are absolutely useless for us to use. We also had issues with some of the homeowners who mentioned they had issues with retrieving footage. Obviously, if there was an incident on site, the footage was difficult to retrieve. The same applied with RRVA. There were 1 or 2 occasions that Rrva has requested for footage of dumping in the area. We battled to actually get footage. It's basically time that we had to find a new supplier to help us with this. Then going forward with upgrades. So doing this camera CCTV investigation was very important because it needs us to move forward with what the next steps are. That's going to be an upgrade of general cameras within the area. We are going to be looking at installation of ANPR cameras. It's automatic license plate recognition. These are only going to be installed in certain sites and obviously in key locations where we can actually track plates entering and exiting the area. We're also going to be looking at obviously upgrading recording systems to a newer, better technology, installing and replacing existing cameras to allow for better quality of imaging, so we have better night vision and things like that. Also better managed licensed off-site monitoring as well, so we have a proper company actually monitoring what we require. And then we were obviously expecting a quality upgrade for longer lifespan of equipment and regular maintenance and RRVA inspections going forward. That will happen. In the presentation is also a layout of where some of the existing camera sites are. We have currently 9 sites. They are listed in the presentation. I'm not going to go through all those sites. We also have 2 new sites that we're looking at. There are no addresses mentioned in here. Oh, sorry, there is one. Apologies. Basically that there's 2 additional sites we're looking at. We haven't got to that to those 2 sites as of yet. For now, we've just been concentrating on the existing sites. And yeah, that just gives you an indication on the map. You can actually see where the pointers are, where our key locations are. Most of them are on entrances to the area. Our Harmony Dam, Muggers Corner, sorry, and then Muggers Alley, my apologies, and top of Rampart Drive, where there are the vagrants around.
Maybe if I can just say something there, Gareth. I did speak to those 2 sites 2 days ago. I actually met with them. They were quite happy to also assist us in installing cameras at those sites. So that would allow us to complete the corner of every entrance
Yeah.
to the RRVA.
Excellent, cool. Then greenbelt monitoring. So we have deployed in this year, as you can see on the map, positions where we've posted guard monitoring points. The next slide, you'll see some of us actually installing those points for the RRVA, and those will be monitored on a frequent basis by EC Security. Then some more exciting news going forward. We are looking at an RRVA security app. I'm not going to go through all those necessary features at the moment because those are still under investigation of what we're going to do there. But some of the key features will be a panic button that links for emergency assistance. Your most common device that you carry daily is obviously your cell phone. Remotes, you put them in drawers, you hang them on the wall, you put them in places, the batteries go flat. So we're looking at an app that's going to help us manage, some sort of connection to the system that we have in the area that'll help us actually get someone to site to help you as quickly as possible under emergency situations.
Then, on that note, sorry if I could just add also.
Yeah, go ahead.
That app, the idea with it was also to be a general platform for everybody to join in from, right? To send push notifications to our members, advertise events, upcoming events, potentially in the future, integrate one-time PIN applications to access gates and safety close some of these areas. But in general, it will be an RRVA app, though the majority of it will be concerned with security.
Cool. Thanks. Then just some planned future upgrades. We are going to be looking at bringing off certain areas of the RRVA. We haven't actually decided where. We're in the middle of that at the moment. And then more recently, we've had 2 incidents in the Fiscal Road area, which is the closest part of RRVA to the N1 highway. Basically, in the last week, Rod and a few gentlemen did a walk around there, and the foliage is really, really overgrown on that side. So we are going to commit to assist in cleaning up that area and cutting back from the grass, and there's some trees that are growing there. When I say trees, it's more foliage and stuff that we don't require, to allow that there's better vision on the back walls of these houses down that side. That's going to take some time to do, but we are planning on doing that, although that area does not fall part into the area of the Rrva, because the highway side is actually JMPD and municipality property, but we'll do what we can on that. There's an example of just some of the foliage in the back area of these houses. You can obviously see it's seriously overgrown. I'm going to hand you over to Robin.
Robin is a representative from the care committee. She heads up the care committee, and she'll tell you about what they've been doing.
Good evening, everybody. As care committee members, Kasturi and I are passionate about the community's well-being. Our aim is to assist all families within the RRVA area who have been through a traumatic event. And this assistance is not specific to RRVA members. Anyone reaching out for help is assisted. There have been numerous incidents of various initiatives which the care committee have been involved with. Some trauma incidents were home invasions, armed robberies, and death of a family member. Our initiatives were collecting of clothing for orphanages from community members. A one-kind lady in that initiative donated beautiful handmade crocheted blankets and baby outfits. We also helped to raise funds where needed for families, and other small gestures are offering cooked meals for traumatized families. We have wonderful ladies on standby that have kindly offered their help with cooking meals when needed. Some of the heartwarming feedback we've received from community members, we've been able to assist. One family wrote to us, "Thank you so much for your love, care and support. We don't know where we would be without the community watch." After another very traumatic event, we referred a family to a counsellor, and this is the message we received. "I cannot thank you enough for referring me to her. We have sent the RRVA an email thanking everyone for the fantastic support and work you all do. We are so appreciative how you helped us." Many people take comfort in the fact that someone else cares and is willing to help and just be there either for advice, support, or a cup of tea. We are here to help the committee and assure people that there are still people in our community who do care without expecting anything in return. Sorry, I wanted to write it down, otherwise I think I would have missed some of the points.
Thank you, Robin. Okay. Well, the work that Robin and Kasturi do is vital, especially in these times. Next, we have the marketing presentation from Quentin Robertson.
Hello, everybody. So over the last couple of months since I joined, we've had a couple of things that we needed to attend from a marketing perspective, and I'm just going to give you some idea of what it is that we've done so far. We had some internal marketing things that we needed to attend to. That included the corporate identity of the RRVA, more specifically mail signatures, company organogram, fonts and templates, new slogan. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the our slogan that we placed in some of the advertising forums, but it was "Our Community Stronger Together." I think the nice thing about that slogan that we've added was, it is our community, and I guess we all care, right? I mean, we're here as volunteers doing our best for our community. So what we aim to do is use that as a hashtag. So as soon as we do something for our community, we'll hashtag our community. And then from a support and a security point of view, and a point of view where everybody just stand together, we're going to hashtag the section Stronger Together. I think that is a very nice slogan to have, and something that expresses what we want everybody to be like and everybody to feel like. Another thing that we're going to do very shortly from an internal perspective is introducing the committee members. I think one of the things that's fallen by the wayside over the last year or so with the change of everybody that's joined the committee as that people don't really know who's part of the RRVA anymore. Everybody knows Rod, and that's probably you either, but the rest of us are quite new. So I think very soon we'll do a member introduction, nice video of everybody or a short description of them, and we'll place that onto our website, and obviously introduce our committee members over Instagram and WhatsApp calls to you guys. On that note, I would just like to request if there's anybody out there that has a little bit of free time on their hands who would like to make a difference, then please join our committee. The media platforms that we currently have is Facebook. Primarily we use Facebook for projects, events and news. Something that requires a little bit of body to explain what it's all about. Where people can go in and read about it. Instagram, we've recently started. It's been quite a good success platform for us. We normally use this platform for informal posts that might highlight personal elements. We do project status updates, for argument's sake, like the bat boxes that we installed. We took a small little video of it while it was being installed. Everybody got the message that was going to be installed, and then we just took a little bit of a message after a small video of it being installed, and afterwards just posting a little photo on Instagram of the board that's been installed, which is now being completed. We'll also do it to introduce events and winners and people that partake in the special events and competitions in our area, and also people and businesses in our area, which is something I'll talk about in a little bit. We obviously have our website. We have a lot of changes that we need to bring to our website. It takes a little bit of time, and to be quite honest, the skills required with that is sought after. So if there's anybody out there that is a web developer or graphic designer that would like to join the committee, once again, we would really appreciate it if you could join us or just assist us on an ad hoc basis. We'd really appreciate that. And then obviously mail, which is another platform that we use to communicate with our members. I think one that I didn't mention here is WhatsApp. We send out, like Rod said previously, we've got a broadcast list that we send out messages to all our members. Just on that note, please note that the street groups is not something that's managed by the RRVA. That's normally just people in the street that join a group to keep communication open, obviously enhance security in that same way. The RRVA is on most of those groups. I think, is there one that we're not on?
Yeah,
A couple, okay. So yeah, most of the groups we're on. So we do send out a post every now and again, just the benefit of the people living in the area, if it's with regards to something that happened nearby or some security concern that you need to look after. We do post those sort of things on the street groups as well. So in general, that's the media platforms that we're currently working on. And then over the last couple of months, I've been very busy putting together some sort of partner agreement. I've spoken about it in the previous videos that we've posted. So just the idea, just to give you guys an idea or an overview of what the partner agreement is and what I see in my mind, there's a lot of projects that the RRVA want to take on, and a lot of those projects requires a lot of funds that needs to be, cash that needs to be outlaid in order to make a success of it. So I've worked in the marketing industry before, and I know how valuable it is to have some bigger corporates part of these initiatives and how much they could help our community to roll out some of these projects successfully. So the idea would be to sign up partners to allow us to do that. And what we look for in a partner is preferably a local company, but if there's nobody in the immediate area, obviously in the region is 100% fine as well. We ask, when we speak to our partners, we focus on 3 key benefits that we ask them to, well, that's in our partnership proposals. The first one is benefit to the RRVA. So if there's direct expenses that the RRVA normally needs to pay for, let's say for argument's sake, like venue hire when we want to do an AGM, that those sort of benefits get incorporated into these partnership agreements so that we can minimize the amount of money that we outlay as a non-profit organization. The second thing that we ask our partners is a member benefit. So very specifically, EC Security is our current partner that signed up. That was our first partner to sign up to our partner network. The idea with EC Security is, like Barrett mentioned earlier, our members will get a reduction in security armed response fees, which is 265 Rand a month. There's also various other benefits that goes with it, like free radio link up and a couple of other things. In a very short time from now, we'll sit down with the guys from EC and we'll make a 10-minute or so video, just interviewing them with regards to, often asking them about their company and let them explain the benefits for our members and so forth. So that's one of the members' benefits that we've drawn out of our current partner. And then there's a specific target market that we would like to target, and that's new homeowners. We believe as soon as they move into the area that we can target those residents, tell them about ourselves, and give them the benefit of drawing benefits from all of our different partners. So that in itself is a target market, and therefore that's the reason why we put together the welcome packs that we're currently busy with. So yes, those are the three elements that we're looking for. So it's RRVA benefits, members benefits, and new homeowner benefits, which is a little bit different to the members benefits. Obviously, it incorporates all the member benefits, but just some extra benefits for the new homeowners. So yeah, our current partner, like I said, is EC Security. A couple of prospects that we're currently talking to is Rand Park Golf Club. We're almost concluded this negotiations. The idea with Rand Park, I'm not going to talk too much about it because we're still in negotiation with them, but the idea would be for members of the RRVA to be able to join the Rand Park Golf Club at a X% discounted rate as a member. You would also be able to buy 4-ball and 2-ball packages to go and play at Rand Park Golf Club at a discounted rate at certain times. I think the current discussion is Monday to Friday and Sunday afternoons. Obviously, Saturday is the peak time for club golfers. You will also have access to the facility. You'll be able to go there and use and attend the special events that they host. You'll be able to jog on their facilities on their running track. And then also from a new homeowner's perspective, they'll get extra benefits like 1 free round of golf and a lifestyle membership for a month for free. But some of those things are still in discussion, and obviously you'll be able to rent the facility as well at a discounted rate. Oh, no, sorry, the rent facilities for free. You'll be able to use the Rand Park Golf Club for free for special events. And from that perspective, we also have the RRVA benefits associated with that, as we will be able to use those facilities and not needed to pay any rental amount to rent the facilities. Another company that I want to talk to, I've been reaching out to them quite a lot, is Lifestyle Home Garden. But that will give you an idea of what I'm looking at. There's a lot of other companies on my list that I'm yet to approach. And I think hopefully by next year, this time, we should have 5 or at least 10 companies sign up to the RRVA, which will provide or enrich our offering to our members and give them the ability to earn some extra discounts from all our partners in the area. From a marketing opportunity perspective, there's a lot of interest in people wanting to market to our members, and obviously from the putting together the partner agreement, a lot of marketing benefits are associated with that to our partners. So we put together a price list or an offering to anybody out there that wants to opt to market through our area. These include local and regional businesses, which can list their website or their company on our website. RRVA members get this for free if it's a local listing. So if you have a business and it's in the RRVA area, very soon we can have a section on our website which will allow you to list your business there, which will obviously promote us and everybody in the area to use companies within our borders. Then obviously within the region, outside of our borders, people are also allowed to advertise or to list their business on our website. We have all these billboards that Rod mentioned earlier in our area. RRVA members get a discounted rate of 15% if you wanted to advertise on those billboards. We split the package up a little bit from what it was previously. A lot of people were asking for discounted rates, so the billboards by itself is now a little bit of a lesser amount. And then you get the billboard plus. Very creative with the word, but yes, billboard plus. So this includes social media exposure. So we include some Instagram posts, some Facebook posts, and some mails and so forth being sent out. It's detailed in the prices that will be uploaded very soon to our website. Then the partner agreement, which is what I explained a little bit earlier, that's a little bit bigger. I don't want to put a sum to it, but it's a lot larger than just advertising on the billboards. There we literally partner up with a company that invests time and money and effort into our area, like they could donate benches or jungle gyms and things like that. So whatever we attach to the current need for the RRVA and for our area or special projects that we're busy with, we're sort of trying to attach that to a partner agreement in order for them to cover the cost. Then we also have a social media package where we send out some posts to our members over Instagram, Facebook, and all the platforms mentioned previously. And then we also have competitions where people are allowed to sponsor or donate a set amount of money to the RRVA, where we will then go out and buy prizes for that amount. And then as soon as we have a competition in our area, which is obviously a little bit difficult over the last couple of months due to COVID, but as soon as we have a competition in our area, then that company would be sponsoring that specific competition. And you'll get X, Y, and Z as per the advertisements. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much the marketing side of things. Cool.
Yeah, thank you, Quentin. Thanks very much. Stephen Sudi can't be with us tonight, so I'm going to take you through the environment and infrastructure, which is a committee that Stephen and I share. And I just started with that photograph, which is taken in our park. If anybody hasn't been to our park lately, I would encourage you to go. It's looking beautiful. What we've tried to do is focus on these things: removing alien vegetation, removing litter and rubble, rewilding. And this is all really to get families back into our parks. We want people to enjoy the parks. It makes the parks safer if residents are jogging, walking, exercising dogs, and children are riding their bicycles in the parks. That's all good. Vagrants don't like to frequent places where residents are busy and active because they get noticed. And we also have a drive to educate residents to be more environmentally aware and to exercise environmental stewardship and just caring for the environment. We have two workers that help us to maintain the park, Ronnie and Max. So there you can see them at the top of Rampart Drive. They now wear branded RRVA uniforms. They've each got a two-piece uniform where the pants and the jackets are branded. And they've got T-shirts for summer. When it gets too hot to wear those jackets, they wear T-shirts. So you should be able to identify them by their uniforms. And in addition, they have the sign which they put up wherever they work so that the residents know they're our people and they're doing work for us. And there they've done a great job in the last month cleaning up that vacant land at the top of Rampart Drive. We've just recently purchased for them a very nice, powerful brush cutter. And this is to help control the vegetation in our parks and also the land surrounding our parks. Here they're clearing old grass and dead vegetation at the top of Rampart Drive at that vacant property. That's to reduce the fire hazard and to make it harder for criminals and vagrants to hide away. We have the philosophy that if we expose big open areas, it's much harder for criminals to operate. Criminals love cover. They love places that they can hide in a hurry. So the whole idea here is to clean up the litter and remove anything that would harbor criminals. We had a cleanup day on the 21st of September. We did it at relatively short notice, but it was fun. Just about everybody on the committee came, and a couple of residents came too. We had a good morning, and it was a good opportunity to speak to people and work with people face to face. And we must have filled 20 bags of litter, and we got a glass bank that we filled up with all the glass that we could find there. And it looked a whole lot better afterwards. Here's a picture of what it looked like before. It's what it resorts to quite quickly. And this is what it looked like. I think I took this picture about 10 days ago. Quite an improvement. But it's an ongoing problem that we constantly have to work on. Here's a little success story, one of our better achievements. We received this photograph last year on the 29th of July from our member Ulrich Kindle. He took this photograph from his car. It's a truck dumping rubble in the vacant property on the Sandroll Beyers-Naudé servitude. And because of that photograph, I tipped off our security service provider, it was CSS at that time, and I asked them to watch this closely. And they witnessed this truck dumping more and more piles of rubble. These are some of the piles of rubble that they dumped. And they took incriminating photographs of them doing so. And we traced that truck back to the Fairland Walk shopping mall across the road on the opposite side of Beyers-Naudé. I think it used to be called, what was it called before? Forget the name before. It was called something else before. It's on the corner of Beyers-Naudé and I think it's Wilson Street. Old Worldway. It used to be called Worldway. So we got the number plates and we found the shopping mall. Of course, they were very distraught that it was their rubble. And I notified Sandroll. I know Edwin Kruger, the chief bridge engineer, and he put me in touch with the right people. And here you can see photographs of the access route that the truck used. They just drove over this curb, and there was a nice road for the Sandroll servitude, and they used it to dump. And subsequent to that, I think Sandroll got all the rubble removed. They might have got the truck driver to remove it, I don't know. And Sandroll put an Armco barrier in there, and they put some concrete New Jersey barriers where an old Armco barrier used to be, and it's now impossible for trucks to go and dump rubble over there. So that's one of our success stories, and we just urge any member who sees something, or any resident who sees something suspicious, please report it. Please tell us, tell the ladies at the office, report it to our security company, report it to Honeydew Saps, report it wherever you can, and let's try and stop illegal dumping. Anybody that is driven around Rrva, if you go along Golf Club Terrace all the way towards Main Reef Road, there's some terrible sites where people dump. Throughout Fairland, there's terrible dumping. And it's something that will happen so easily. And the moment one person dumps illegally, other people take it as an opportunity to copy them. And so we have to work very, very diligently to stamp out illegal dumping, because if we don't, it is so expensive for us to remove the rubble at our cost. Here's something else we've done in the interests of rewilding. We purchased these 3 bat hotels. On the left, you can see the bat hotels. Those are below Hymany Dam in the park. And the photograph in the middle is a picture in Hymany Park of a bat house. And on the right is a picture of another bat house in Essenhout Park. And 2 of these bat house, the bat hotel and the lowest bat house, has got an information board attached to one of the gum poles which supports it, telling the residents about the importance of bats. They eat insects, they help to restore the environment. And in the near future, what we'd like to do is also get some owl houses to go with the bat houses. And slowly but surely get it greener and wilder. And we hope that this will encourage residents to take more interest and care of our parks. Here you can see a sunset photograph of a bench that we put in the park. And on the right-hand side, you can see a grey heron. That's a fairly rare bird, but it is in our area. And this is what happens when you rewild. You make it beautiful again. You make it a desirable place to go to. Here's something else that we typically do. This was a garden wall that fell down during a flood, and it stayed there for 3 years. The owner wasn't able to dispose of it, so we paid for it to be disposed of. We used our labor, and we paid for somebody to take the rubble away. But that's expensive. That's where some of our money goes. It costs a few £1,000 to get something like that removed. We don't want our suburb to end up like this. Ronnie and Max spend probably 1 full day each, every week, just cleaning up litter. And we appeal to you to help us keep the suburbs clean. It's a constant problem. People constantly throw litter. Please don't throw litter. If you have domestic workers, please appeal to them not to throw litter, to use the dustbins that are provided wherever possible, rather than throwing litter. And we appeal to our residents to participate with us. Some of you might have seen me and my family. We go plogging, which is walking or jogging. And while you're doing your exercise, if you see a plastic bag or a Coke bottle or something, you pick it up and you put it in a rubbish bag that you carry with you. It actually helps you exercise better because you have to bend and stretch, and you're doing something worthwhile in the process. We also appeal to residents not to use the top of Rampart Drive to dump firewood. This is an excuse people use for dumping anything that is combustible that they don't want. We're trying our best to discourage vagrants, not to encourage vagrants. And just bear in mind, when you throw something like an old garden fence, which has been painted with creosote, it creates toxic fumes and terrible smells, and people complain. Our residents regularly complain about the smell of the burning. And that's because the vagrants throw into their fire anything which is combustible, from dumped wood like this to motor car tires to plastic. And we don't want that. It's toxic, it's carcinogenous. Please don't do that. And if you see people dumping there, please report it. Our cameras are going to be upgraded, as Barrett says, and hopefully we will be able to find some incriminating evidence in future if people do this and prosecute them. We appeal to our members to look after these people in our community. These are the reclaimers. Last year in September, we had an information evening at Rampart Primary School, where Dr. Melanie Sampson from the Department of Human Geography at WITS came with a bunch of reclaimers from Rrva, the African Reclaimers Organization. And we did this to try and educate our members about these people. I would encourage you all to try to get to know your reclaimers. They do sometimes chop and change. You'll have a certain gentleman or lady come past your house for several months, and then you won't see them for several months again. And then you'll be pleasantly surprised when they come back. And this is somebody that I've befriended. His name is Petrus, and he's taught me a lot in the time that I've got to know him in the last year or two. If you take the trouble to get to know these people, you'll see that they're human beings. Most of them desperately trying at the bottom of the food chain to feed their families and to earn an honest living. And what they do, I can assure you, is very hard, tough, demeaning work. And what we can do to help them is separate the recyclable material at source. So these people typically collect your PET bottles, those are your Coke bottles and your water bottles, and any of that plastic which has got the label PET and the number 1. They also collect your milk bottles, your plastic milk bottles, your shampoo bottles, your washing detergent bottles, handy bottles and stuff like that. They collect cardboard. They love the aluminium cans because they get a good price for the aluminium cans. And what we suggest you do is just separate the stuff that we know they can recycle and give it to them in a clean state. If you've got a mayonnaise bottle, just stick it in your dishwasher and wash it out for them, and then put it on the pavement in a cardboard box. They'll take the cardboard box as well. Old white paper they love as well. And they really offer us a tremendous service. Melanie Sampson was saying that they save our municipalities about 700 million rand a year in landfill airspace alone. That's over and above the saving in diesel and transport to transport huge unnecessary amounts of waste. And everything that they take with them gets recycled. And that's the beauty of it. So it helps to reduce your carbon footprint. And just to tell you how nice these people are, I'll share a little story. On the right-hand side of that photograph at the top is a packet of lids. I told one of these guys once that we were collecting lids for my daughter's school and for Jennifer McQuillan's nursery school. And so he went out of his way to collect all the lids that he could, and he brought me that packet as a gift. And then a couple of weeks ago, he told me that he fixes electrical appliances, and I had this iron that I couldn't fix. It's a very complicated iron. It's got an electronic sensor in it. And we took it to Philips, and Philips couldn't fix it, not for less than the cost of a new iron. And I said to Petrus, why don't you try it, thinking you'll never have a hope of fixing it. And he brought it back to me 2 days later with a big smile on his face. He'd fixed it. Folks, these are just ordinary human beings who happen to have hard times, and they really need our help. And I just think that these folks, if they weren't doing that, might be forced to break into our houses and steal from us. Thank God they're not. They're trying to do make an honest living. And so let's please help them as much as we can. So that's a typical pile of what I'll put out. You'll see there's a pool floater with it. That's the sort of stuff that they take. So that's our collection for the week for them. Often I have much more because I have the RRV stuff to pick up. We want to embark upon a project to put dustbins in our neighborhoods. A couple of years ago, nearly 2 years ago, I went on a recce and I identified sites to put dustbins. Our ward councillor, Wendy Alexander, had promised to sponsor us dustbins. I had some meetings with her and the director of the Pick It Up in Randburg. And they came out together to look at the sites that I've chosen. And the two of them said, we don't believe in dustbins because if you put dustbins there, people will just litter more, which is absolute nonsense. So what it meant was that the municipality wasn't going to give us any help with dustbins. If we want them, we've got to do them ourselves. So what we've got in mind is something like the dustbin on the left, that we're going to galvanize them so that they don't need any maintenance at all, and we'll put them in those strategic positions. But I do know that dustbins do help with the litter problem. I've adopted a dustbin just opposite CSS in Rand Park Drive. It's a concrete dustbin, and I regularly go and empty it. And if dustbins made people litter more, they wouldn't throw the litter in the dustbin, they would throw the litter out the dustbin. But the more dustbins we have, I believe, the more likely people are to use them. The other arm of this committee is the maintenance of infrastructure. And the sort of work we do is when picket fences get damaged, we get them repaired. So this is a picket fence outside the transformer electrical substation that belongs to City Power Johannesburg, and it regularly gets broken. We lock it with a padlock, and within a week or two, the padlock gets cut. This was at the advice of somebody at City Power. The council doesn't lock any of these gates anymore, and they don't lock the substations. So in order to prevent vagrants and criminals going in and using these to hide, we try to maintain them and lock them, but they get forced open and they get damaged. We get them repaired, we fix them, we paint them, we look after them as best we can. I want to say something about all the burst pipes in the suburb. This is a photograph with an old asbestos cement pipe in the foreground and one of the replacement PVC pipes in the background with a collar and an adapter fitting to the HDP connections that go into your house. This was an upgrade that was done in 2015 and 2016 throughout our suburb. Not every pipe was replaced, but some of them were replaced. They were replaced along Rampart Drive, Mimosa, Fiscal, and a number of other streets. And you would have noticed that lately an inordinate number of these pipes rupture, and the water sprays out sometimes for 24 hours before the municipality comes and turns them off. And then they dig up the pipe, they damage a lot of infrastructure in the process, and they reinstate it, and very often a month or two later, the same pipe blows again. Now, I've had meetings with a ward councillor and engineers from Johannesburg Water about this. There's a memorandum of a meeting that I had online about a month ago with them. And what they've told me is that the pressure is excessive. Anybody who's seen one of these bursts will see the pressure is excessive. And Joburg Water has been unable to do anything about the pressure. There are things called pressure reducing valves, which they assure me they've turned down as much as they can. But despite that, the pressure seems to be too high. It continues to be too high. The explanation they give me is that there are special valves called zone control valves, which are supposed to afford zones extra redundancy in the event that there's a burst pipe somewhere, or a failure of a reservoir or a pump somewhere. You can redirect water from elsewhere via this whole labyrinth of pipes underground. The only problem is the GIS data system that they've got, which shows these zone valves, is incorrect. When they turn off one of these zone valves, it doesn't have the effect that it theoretically should have. It doesn't isolate the zone that it should isolate, and it doesn't return water to the zone it could return water to. So there's some sort of an institutional problem that probably stems from a combination of institutional memory loss, records that haven't been kept, records that have been destroyed, and probably a certain degree of ineptitude in the council. And they say they're working on this, but they can't give us any indication of when it will be rectified. But it looks like it's not going to be rectified in the near future. So in the meantime, they say that the reason that they're not reinstating the damaged services around these excavations, which they excavate usually with a TLB, is because they're afraid they're just going to have to come and remedy the damage again in a month or two, because they expect these pipes to continue bursting. It's very unfortunate, but they burst despite the fact that these fittings are class 16, which means they're designed to take 16 bars. But they tell me that just this reservoir that supplies us, which is at the corner of Northumberland Road and Bayers Nordia, just opposite that diesel drive fuel shop, they say that the pressure from that reservoir alone can go up to 12.5 bar. So that's the problem with the water. Another problem that we have is theft of manholes. People are stealing cast iron manhole covers all around our suburb to sell for scrap metal. And we ask you to be vigilant. If you see one of these being stolen, please report it immediately. We'd like to convict some of these criminals. The problem is that the council replaces these manhole covers with ones that don't fit. They replace the cast iron with concrete, and the trouble is if you step on these concrete manholes, you fall in. So you can see here's the meter reader coming to read my meter, and he stood on this concrete manhole and he hurt himself a bit. So never step on one of these concrete manhole covers, please. They are lethal. And what I've got on the right here are some photographs of a device that I made with a chain and some shackles to shackle the cast iron manhole cover to a step inside the manhole to make it more difficult. I'm sure it's not impossible, but it just makes it more difficult for a thief to walk off with your cast iron manhole lid, which is probably worth 80 or 100 rand in scrap metal. And if there's somebody there that's a good handyman who could help us, We would love you to help us chain some more lids of cast iron manholes so that they can't be stolen. There's just a limit to what I can do myself. Now, on some of the big infrastructure items, I've written reports over the last 4 years. These are proper civil engineering reports, which are peer reviewed, explaining the problems to the municipality and suggesting how they fix them. And it seems that these are starting to bear fruit. But what I've learned is that this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. You've got to be extremely patient with the council. And you've got to keep going back to the council again and again and again to remind them that they haven't attended to the problem. So here's four of the reports that I've written. There's one on 2 culverts, 2 pipe culverts that are damaged. There's one on the Hymany Dam, which is damaged. There's one on a concrete spillway, a concrete channel, a concrete canal in the stream in Hymany Park, just near the spa. And there's one on a sewer pipe that crosses that stream, which was pouring sewage a year ago. And we had some success with that last one. This is a picture of that cast iron or steel sewer pipe. I think it was just a welded steel sewer pipe. It had a tree growing out of it through the perforations and a tomato plant. And it poured sewage into the stream for years. And I just hit my head. It felt like against a brick wall. And I remember standing in the park one day on the phone to Wendy Alexander saying, Wendy, I promise you, I'm going to keep on harassing you until such time as you get this pipe fixed. And a month later, a contractor rolled up and they fixed the pipe. So it did eventually bear fruit, thank goodness. Now, as for the other structures, Hymany Dam still got major structural problems, especially with the side channel spillway. And I've been bugging the ward councillors. We've had online meetings with the ward councillors and engineers. You can see these are pictures of the water flowing through the earth embankment into the rubble masonry lined side channel spillway. There's another picture you can see on the left, some of the water coming through the earth embankment, which is really bad for such a dam. That spillway is a total wreck at the moment. But lately, a couple of months ago, a notice was erected on the fence to Hymany Dam Park, and it says that the Joburg municipality, I think it's the JRA, has undertaken to rehabilitate the dam. They've appointed Oricon structural engineers to do a full structural assessment of the dam wall and make recommendations. But unfortunately, what that doesn't say, I've just lost that slide, but what that doesn't say, how do I go back? Roll down. Roll down.
It's up or down. Yeah, that's fine.
There. One more.
Just the left button.
There. What that doesn't say is when they're going to do it. Now, the ward councillors have assured me that it's not going to happen this year. There is no line item on this year's budget to fix that dam. So it might happen next year, but we're just going to continue bashing our heads and reminding them and nagging them. And I think the more of you who express your concern and phone the ward councillor, the more likely it is to happen in your lifetime. So if you haven't already done so, a great opportunity to phone the ward councillor and say, what about it? I really believe it works. Here, pictures of the pipe culverts underneath, this is underneath Cedar Road, near Hymany Dam, downstream of Hymany Dam. The trouble here is on the downstream cut-off wall. The erosion has undermined the downstream wall and it's now heading towards the middle of the structure. By the time the erosion gets sort of a quarter to 1/3 through the structure, the structure will collapse. Now, what the council's done here, it's appointed a structural engineer who's gone to a lot of trouble to do a study. They've done a hydrological survey of the catchment before the structure, and they've come to the conclusion that it's hydraulically inadequate, that the apertures aren't big enough, and its capacity is not big enough for a flood. Now, in the 19 years that I've lived in this area, I've never once seen the floodwater overtop that structure. But the engineer assures me that somebody that he spoke to said he's got a photograph of it overtopping. Even if it has overtopped, I don't think it would have been catastrophic, not a normal flood. But anyway, they've decided that it has to be replaced in its entirety, that they can't fix it. The trouble is, they haven't promised when they're going to fix it. They don't know themselves. There's no budget, there's no line item in the budget for this year. So I can assure you it's definitely not going to happen this year. And here's a similar structure on Medlar. You can see that one of the wing walls on the downstream face has actually collapsed. So the erosion of that riverbed is about 2 meters since that structure was built, and it's now being undermined. The scar cavity is well under the downstream apron of that structure. And so what I've done, I wrote a long email to the ward councillors, and I said, look, I understand it's COVID and times are tough and finances are poor. Why don't you let us help you? We can do some preliminary work to help ameliorate further damage to these structures. What I suggest is that we appeal to our members. If somebody knows where we can get some dump rock, we fill those scar cavities with dump rock and we buy ourselves some time. And I waited, and I'll tell you what they said just now. There's pictures. How did I get it?
I'm going to have to go very far
I
now.
think this is the fastest way.
Let's just recap. Almost there. Because then we'll go past it, eh?
I don't want to go past it.
They will.
That's a picture I want. So those are the posters that the municipality put up notifying us that they're going of their intention to fix these structures. And those pictures I took in early 2018. They then disappeared, and I harassed them a bit more, and we got some more photographs and posters put up this year, and they've now disappeared. But it is on the cards. I've had Zoom meetings with the ward councillors and the engineers subsequently, and the intention is that they will replace those structures. Unfortunately, they have decided that they're going to close those roads completely. I asked them if they couldn't do a single lane at a time, but they've said no, it's going to be too difficult for them. They want to close the roads permanently while they replace those structures. So that's going to mean that sometime in the future, those roads are going to be closed for a month or two. It's not going to be fun when that happens, but we just don't know when. Here's an example of one that failed in Cork Street in Ferndale, and they had to replace the whole structure because they waited too long. So it's not something unknown to JRA. And just downstream of that bridge, you can see some severe erosion of the embankment, where it's taken somebody's garden wall, or part of their garden wall. And we're trying to get the municipality to agree to do something more permanent to stabilize these embankments. We're getting some problems with sinkholes developing on stormwater drain lines. This is one at the bottom of Rrva Bos, where it joins with Cedar. That's a sinkhole that opened up recently under one of our fences, and we're pushing them to get that fixed. This is a picture of that side of that concrete canal in Hymany Park, going under the bridge at Rand Park Drive. And what you can see here is how the panels of concrete are busting up. This is a picture I took earlier this year or late last year. You can see the concrete panels have actually washed out of position, and the stream is now flowing underneath part of the concrete channel instead of on top of the concrete channel. And my great fear, this is a picture I took this morning, my great fear is that the next flood is going to wash these panels down, break that blue sewage pipe that they've just installed, and block the aperture under the bridge completely, in which case the stream will probably wash one of the approach embankments, or both the approach embankments, out of the bridge and make Grand Park Drive unusable. And I said to the ward councillors in that email that I wrote them, can we not help you? Can we not get our workers with a sledgehammer to break up those loose concrete panels which are doing nothing? They're beyond redemption. They're beyond fixing anyway. Let us break them up, take the rubble out of the stream, and then if we have a flood, there's less risk of it blocking. And Wendy Alexander phoned me a couple of weeks ago and she said, absolutely not, Rod. You don't have permission to do anything. If you guys do anything, you are liable to be fined up to 12 million rand or something. We don't have 12 million rand. I can't afford to do that. So we just have to sit tight and nag. So please help me with the nagging if you can. We now go to the financial report for the past year. And I'm going to present this. Is that right, Rrva? You want me to present this? Okay. And I'm just going to quickly go over it. I don't want to bore you at this stage. Remember I said we've lost members. We're now 380 paid up members as we speak. But as of 29th February, we had about 100 more than that. We have proposed that for this AGM, we leave the fees as they are at 330 Rand for a normal ordinary household member and 220 Rand for a pensioner member. And of course, the flats and the townhouses pay a different amount. I can't remember what that is. And that's something that we're going to have to vote on. So I think while it's fresh in my mind, how do we vote now? Can the members just give you a thumbs up or a WhatsApp saying we're in favour? And are there any proxies?
We have only received one proxy.
One proxy? Okay.
They can, although, I mean, they can do that. They can give us an okay.
All right, if you can give us some sort of an indication by WhatsApp or email now whether you agree. I assume that
not email, just on the
Just
YouTube.
on the YouTube channel.
on the YouTube channel, if you can just give us a thumbs up that you're in favor of maintaining the monthly subscription at 330 Rand per month for ordinary members, 220 Rand a month for pensioners. That's great. Can I take it that everybody here is in favor of maintaining the fees as they are? Yeah. We looked at reducing it, and we're just scared that if we lose any more members, we're going to be back in deep trouble. We've managed to salvage our cash flow situation since we no longer have to pay CSS security 130-something thousand Rand a month. That's really helping our cash flow a lot. We can now spend money on other things that we need to spend money on. This is an expense breakdown for 2020. It looks fairly similar to last year, but what was happening towards the end of the 2020 financial year, and especially in this new financial year, starting in March 2020, is that as the membership fees the income got less and less, the proportion that we were paying to the security provider was growing and growing. And there you can see it looks like something like 70% was going to CSS security in the last financial year. And I'll just compare that with the financial year before without going into too much detail just now. This is the income breakdown, and we did have less income last year than the year before. And that was largely due to a reduction in the number of members and also the loss of the income that we derived from the rental income on a cell phone tower. We were getting income from Vodacom for a cell phone tower in Harmony Park, which was built on land owned by the council. We discovered this sometime near the middle of last year. One of our directors was going through the archives and found what turned out to be a fraudulent contract, a fraudulent rental agreement. And we had no option but to disclose it and come clean. We brought it to the attention of all the stakeholders, that being Vodacom, the City Council of Johannesburg, and our members. And as a result of that, that income stream went away. In 2019, that was our income, and we were getting 4% rental income from the cell phone mast, and the vast majority of our income came from subscriptions. The sponsorships was from renting space for signage, what we call sponsorships rather than advertising. And we're getting that back because we're starting to put signs up, like you'll see the EC signs going up shortly, due to our partnership with EC Security. And these were the expenses from the previous year. So you can see how they contrast. It looks pretty similar, but what's happened this year is that the security costs have diminished appreciably. So now we've got more money that we can spend on things like the parks and rewilding the environment and CCTV cameras and things like that. Now we come to the point in the AGM where we need to agree on the auditor. I was disappointed this year that the auditor took so long, and I was disappointed that the financial statements weren't like I wanted to see them. They weren't as transparent as I wanted, and even after I asked for changes to be made, they're still not as transparent as I would have liked. So Heather, do we propose to use the same auditor again, or
No, we should just change it.
do you think we should change? Well, I'm in favour of changing the auditor then, and this is something else that the members need to agree on. Now, I must just emphasise that the only people who may vote are fully paid up RRVA members. Non-members are not allowed to vote, and if your membership has subsided, you're also not allowed to vote. And we will be checking your membership before we count the votes, so please let us know. Can you please vote on that?
Right, just before we get started, I just want to see, we have about,
That's fine. A quorum is 7, so 12 is good.
We've got 17 in favour.
Perfect. Is this of the
first one.
the first one? Okay.
Yeah.
So also
That's
just
what
tell us
needs
about
to
the
remain
auditor.
where they are.
And can I take it that everybody here is in favour of getting a new auditor?
Whatever
Okay.
you guys says best.
We'll-
Whoever deals with that.
We'll get a
Yeah.
new auditor. All right. So I think we need a new auditor. No objections.
No.
All right, and then before we end off, we just want to ask you to vote on one more thing. In terms of our current MOI, Memorandum of Incorporation, there's a clause which precludes me from being a director for another term. The current clause says this. Yeah, I'll help you to get it back there. I touched it. The current clause 21.8.2 says a director shall retire at the end of his or her term of office, but may be eligible for reappointment for a further term, but may not serve for more than 2 terms consecutively. So I've been a director since December 2018, we could say. When I was voted in as a director at the 2018 AGM. So when we had our director's induction last year in December, the consultant who conducted the induction for us recommended that we change this clause in the MOI to the following. She said, replace it with the following clause. A director shall retire at the end of his or her term of office, but may be eligible for reappointment for a further term, but may not serve for more than 4 terms consecutively. And a director may not serve as the chairman of the board for more than 2 consecutive terms. So that's what the director signed. I've got some signatures here in the resolution book from Martin Costello, Wayne Ketz, and myself. It was signed by 3 directors. So what we need to do is get our members to ratify that decision. If they are happy to amend the Memorandum of Incorporation, The only person affected by that at the moment is myself. None of the other directors have been here longer than 6 months. It's about 6 months. So it would help us with continuity. The trouble is, at the moment, I'm the only director who's been through the induction, through the director's induction. And it would be a hiccup if I had to resign at this stage. But it's up to you, the members. I'll abide by what you decide.
If I can maybe just add to that. So I must be honest, Rod, you've been a great leader for us all, I believe. Everybody share my sentiment over the last 6 months that I've been part of the RRVA, and you definitely have my vote. I'm sure everybody on the committee's vote for you to stay on, and I'm sure our members will vote in the same favour. So I think if you finish the counting of the previous vote, can we put that vote out now? Or
yes, I think we're going to put it out now.
I've got 16 in favour.
Okay.
So was the previous one 16 in favour?
Yeah.
Okay. So just if everybody could start voting, I see the first votes already come in from. Yeah. Just give us a thumbs up and say that you support the resolution to change the directors to director change,
Incorporation.
more change.
Yeah,
Suggested.
clause, what's it? 21.8.2.
Yeah, so thumbs up and more change or something to that extent, so we can count them in accordance with all the votes that we've asked for so far.
Okay, I'll carry on in the meantime. How
Yes.
is it for time? Continue.
We are past 8.
Almost 8. Okay, we're doing quite well for time. At this stage, it's always been tradition for the RRVA directors to stand down and for the members to vote in new directors. But this year, we're going to propose a change. Anybody that's voted as a new director, or a new director, if you want to be a director, we're going to ask you to first serve on the committee. The setup that we have now, the dynamic works really well with Heather and myself and Quinton. We work well together. I am afraid of people that we don't know. We've had some less than ideal experiences, and I appeal to you to think carefully about nominating yourself or somebody else to become a director. It's something that you must take seriously. There are obligations and duties which you have to fulfill. We found that in the recent past, people are very quick to come on and become directors, but they don't have the stamina. I must emphasize that to become a director, you need stamina. We want people that are here for the long haul. If you are not fully intending to stay for a year, please don't become a director. It's a lot of PT to put you on to the SIPSI system as a director. There's a lot of admin involved. And when you resign, there's a lot of admin involved. And it takes you a while to get a feel for the organization and to become able to make a contribution. And it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And it's not as an opportunity or a platform where you can come and impose your will. We run this democratically, and I know that a democracy is the worst form of governance, except all the other forms of governance. That's what Winston Churchill said. But it's still better than anything else. And so we run it democratically. The MOI is designed to operate in a democratic fashion using democratic principles. And you end up working with people that you wouldn't maybe choose to work with. You don't really have a say in who your fellow directors are. So I would appeal to you, if you're somebody who's got anger issues and you're looking for a place to vent your anger, please don't become a director on the RRVA. We're looking for people who are willing to put in a lot of effort and hard work. It's not just a case of going to a meeting once a month and having your say, and then waiting till the next meeting. At the meeting, we task ourselves with doing things, and it's important that you follow through and you do those things, and you don't come to the next meeting and say, sorry, I didn't have time to do anything. So please think carefully about that. We're going to insist that you first work on a committee for a couple of months before we make you a director, if you nominate yourself. And really just think of it as an opportunity to invest in your community. I've got a book here that I would recommend that anybody reads. It's called Prosper by Chris Martenson and Adam Taggart. They run an organization in the States called Peak Prosperity. And 2/3 of this book is about capital, about your wealth. And they divide capital into 8 different categories. There's financial capital, and then there's all different other types of capital. Emotional capital, intellectual capital. And one of the capitals is social capital. The relationship that you have with your community and your next door neighbors and people that are going to look after you in times of trouble. And he makes a point very well in this book that a lot of people put emphasis only on financial capital. They don't put emphasis on community and social capital. We've replaced social capital with money and technology, to the result that many of us don't know who our neighbors are. We don't speak to our neighbors. And in times like these, which are getting tougher, and they're going to be tough for the foreseeable future, it's a good thing to have friends and to have neighbors that you can rely on. And this is quite a good way to get your feet wet by giving something back to your community. And I would encourage you to think carefully about it. That's.
I've welcome to unfortunately.
Please, yes, you were going to say something. Heather.
Yes. Aside from the obvious being like the work, because I don't know why anybody wants to join a team and then not work. I don't get that. But it's not about having a way. It's not about being a director so that you can, throw a temper tantrum because somebody doesn't listen to you. It's about listening to everybody else and doing what the general populace, the majority of people want to do. And sometimes that's not what you want. Tough, whatever. If you can't understand that you're working within a system of a whole bunch of different people, it's a problem, because you do get these people that join and they do have temper tantrums when they don't get their way. And it's just destructive.
Yeah, and some of the directors who resigned in the last year have said to me they just couldn't take the hostility. So please, if you come, you have to be on your best behavior. You have to cooperate with other people. You cannot threaten people with physical violence if you don't get your own way. You have to sometimes agree to disagree. And you have to have enough time. I put in at least a full day of work every week in terms of my time devoted to the RRVA. And it's a lot. And I think if you haven't got half a day a week to devote, then you shouldn't become a director. And what we could really do with are some people who are retired or semi-retired and have a bit more time on their hands, but are still willing and able to work hard and have got experience on how to work with people, draft resolutions, write minutes, plan, coordinate, get quotes, write. You can always do with people who can write. So please think very carefully about that and let us have your nominations now.
Well, to be honest, even if you are just willing and you have time to join the marketing, you've never done marketing before as well, I think it's the time and effort and the time in the game that makes a difference.
Even ad hoc,
if people can just dedicate time and join our great committee, it will be awesome.
Absolutely, Quentin. If you've got some skill, if you're a lawyer and you can review contracts or write us a contract or two, get the wording right, that would be much appreciated. If you're a botanist or a biologist and you can help us to identify alien trees, and one of the things we want to do is put tree tags on trees, that would be deeply appreciated. And I'm sure there's people that have got skills that can use their hands, that can help us secure manhole lids, that can help us secure those inspection plates that go on the sides of the street lights, which are always hanging ajar and the guts are spilling out of all the wires. We could really do with stuff like that. Something that we have to realize is that the municipality is going to only do less and less in the future. They've got a bigger and bigger problem of infrastructure maintenance. They're already not getting to it. And there are some things that we can do that make the infrastructure last longer. And we should do what we can. Obviously, we're not going to break the law and go and break up concrete panels in the channel, which could get us into trouble. But if we can put an inspection plate back on a lamppost and save the wiring and the circuit breakers, let's do what we can. So,
Still in favour of the Moy change.
okay, any not in favour?
No.
Okay,
No, there wasn't any.
that's reassuring that some people have confidence. Okay, thank you. So we're going to open it up to a general forum now. There's always questions from people, but I'd like to propose a theme for the coming year, and that is resilience. Together we are stronger. And I copied that. I'm a copycat. I copied it from Chris Martinson. He's got that theme. They've adopted it at Peak Prosperity because of the hard times that he can see coming. And he's got T-shirts made that say resilience on, and we could do the same with an RRVA logo and a resilience on the back of the T-shirt. Because I think one thing we can be sure of is that the rest of this decade is going to be dictated by economic chaos. We're going to see some economic chaos this decade. And we're going to have to be resilient to survive. We're going to have to be resilient financially, and we're going to have to be resilient in terms of finding alternative ways to get things done, other than maybe just paying money. And we're going to have to be clever, and we're going to have to work together. So we'll open it up to questions. How would you like people to post?
So far.
Okay, shall we deal with those? And if you can just please give us your name when you ask a question.
Well, one is from an ex-member. So I can take she asked directly, why would we invest? What was the specific wording?
Surely there is more important needs than more.
Now, surely there's more important needs than golf. So if I could maybe just explain that a little bit. A lot of these partner agreements, like I said when I started the conversation, it's 99% of the time bound to something, some project or something that the RRVA want to achieve or do, right? So if we want to build, if we want to add more benches to our green belt, then we would need money for that, and in turn we could get a partner or a sponsor on board that could donate some of those benches and organize, sponsor some prizes towards a competition area, let's say nicest curve appeal for the Garden of the Month in a certain segment of the area, and then we get benches, we get competitions, and we get prizes towards the people that actually don't have invested a lot of time in their garden outside. The same would apply to the golf component. If you're a keen member that plays golf in the area, then obviously you get a benefit just by being part of the RRVA. The RRVA gets a benefit of being able to host a golf day. Through a golf day, you can make anything from 50 to 150,000 rand. I've been a golf director before. I know how to organize these golf days and what goes in it to generate these sort of funds. And so it's not about the golf. It's about what we can do with the capital that we get. So we'll take the money then and we'll invest it into another project where we would need potentially CCTV cameras or things like that. If we discuss anything with lifestyle, and I've mentioned this before previously, this is not something that I've already discussed with them at all. But if we could, for any bag of soil that you buy from lifestyle, you would get one for free if you're an RRVA member, something to that direction. The RRVA benefit would be that we could potentially buy compost and soil at cost, which we could use then to beautify some of the gardens or areas, or we could buy plants or things at them at lifestyle at a discounted rate, which will save money once again, and we can use that capital to invest in other projects. So it's all about generating an income, the marketing component. It's not about generate, obviously, for the partners that join and the companies that join our network. It's about generating awareness, which is what we give back to them. But for us, it's about generating an income which we could use on projects that's more valuable to our community. That's what we are.
Next question, by Sean Albert. What monthly monitoring reports were being submitted by the previous provider?
They used to give us an Excel spreadsheet, but I don't know that it was that useful. You had to compare many of them to pick up trends. They did. It was an Excel spreadsheet.
Monthly or?
It was
Every
usually monthly, yeah.
So that's really indicating incidents in certain areas.
Yeah, house breakings and murders and.
But that wasn't just our area, it was like a whole.
Yeah, it was. CSS used to do it, and that is a potential problem because you're asking. It's like asking a school child to mark their own exam.
Yeah.
You wonder how objective it is, but the Honeydew Police Forum also keeps statistics, but they take longer and they obviously don't pertain only to this area, but the general Honeydew Police Forum precinct. I didn't think it was that useful. One of the problems with statistics, if you have one murder 1 month and the next month there's 2 murders, well, murder went up 100%, and that can cause people to become sensational. It's people, take it the wrong way and they say, oh hell, this area's gone to hell because murder's gone up 100% in a month. And so statistics can backfire against you. I'm not terribly in favor of them. I'm more in favor of getting our members active and involved. I think that's a far better way to combat crime. In January this year, we had Clodagh Mannion come and give us a talk. She's a criminologist, and she gave us a talk on what we could do. And the theme of her talk, the message of her talk was, get your members out of their houses, into the parks and the streets, and the vagrants and the criminals will run away because they don't like an active community. They don't like it when neighbors speak to each other, because then they say, hang on, there shouldn't be that car outside your house. What's going on? And the criminals get found out quickly.
But the report, we didn't get like how many kilometers, because I've seen a couple of those now.
No, it wasn't in that sort of detail as far as I can remember. It was on an Excel spreadsheet, and it was numbers, and they had a whole lot of different categories of crime.
Maybe we could just add to that, I think, Barrett, from the new reports that we are getting from, well, going to get from EC, those are a lot more detailed with regards to, well, the request was outlined in the tender, right, from the amount of the streets that they traversed, the ability for us to log in and track the vehicle, getting notifications if it exits our area. They obviously do the incidents and report on the incidents. If it's not their house, they report on the incident and the guy that attended from the other armed response company, what type of incident it was. And they obviously walk the green belt where we installed the beacons, which we can now track as well to know when they walked it, did they walk it. So it's a lot more factual. It's a lot more. We can get a lot more reporting from it, and we can actually monitor whether or not the vehicle stays in the area. I think that's quite important for a lot of people that signs up with EC Security, to make sure that they don't just assume that they're actually across the road or in different suburbs, but we can guarantee you that the vehicle don't leave the area. So I think that's just from a reporting perspective a little bit different to what it previously used to.
Next one, Indiran Govender, he asks, Is there a way to give the retailers some kind of RRBA identification?
Thank you very much. I'm very much in favor of that. The problem is that they are transient. Some of the guys that I've befriended haven't come back. The other night, Petrus rang the doorbell when I was away, unfortunately, and it scared my wife a lot. And he said that he was sleeping in the veld at the top of Randpark Drive, which these reclaimers do because they go through our dustbins at night. And then they've got to take the stuff that they've collected to a buyback center in the morning. And they can't take it back to their house. He lives in Cosmo City, and he can't haul his cart back to Cosmo City and then to the buyback center. So he sleeps in the veld, and somebody threatened his life. So we haven't seen Petrus since. I'm a bit worried about the guy. But we could buy them a safety vest, which would make them more visible at night, and we could maybe buy them tape to put on their trolleys. But we must understand that it's something that we've got to keep doing, because as these people climb up the ladder and improve their status in life, they tend to move on and progress beyond being rubbish reclaimers. Hopefully it is transient for most of them, but a safety vest is quite cheap. It's 20 or 30 rand, and we could brand them RRVA friend or something. And we could dish them out to those reclaimers that are regular, that we know. And it's something that I've been thinking of doing, but I was worried about the blowback from members, because not all members think of them as kindly as I think of them. I think that's just because of ignorance very often. They just don't know these are human beings who are trying to feed their families and trying to earn an honest living. But I would like to help them like that.
I think I'll put it on my agenda for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and if somebody really feels strongly against it, let us know, and we can maybe have a chat. But I think it would make it safer for them and safer for us as motorists. And it would also be nice for us to know that it's a friend of the RRBA. It's not a total stranger or a criminal. Because one of the things I do is I often go out, if it's a reclaimer that I vaguely know, and I'll say, here's a box of stuff, but please only take what you can use. If you can't use it, please don't take it, because I don't want to have to pick it up off the vacant plot at the top of Randpark Drive. So we have that kind of relationship, and then they learn what I like, and I learn what they like, and we become friends. And there's some great characters. I was really impressed when Petrus fixed that iron that I couldn't even fix. And there's some real aptitude and skill in some of these people, and I think a lot of them will go far because they're prepared to work so hard. Anybody that's prepared to work that hard for that little and endure such adversity, I have great respect and admiration for. So we'll try and do that.
Please clarify who is responsible for the park maintenance.
Yeah, I can see where that comes from. Yeah, the city parks do some maintenance, and we're in a bit of a conundrum there, because they are doing less and less as the years go by. They used to mow the park once a week, then it became once a month, and now it's like 3 or 4 times a year. And sometimes you've really got to beg them to come and mow the lawn when, the lawn and the weeds are 1 meter high or higher. So we have taken it upon ourselves, and now CSS, I believe, has signed an agreement with city parks whereby they have adopted our park, which is great. I think it's wonderful. Wayne Ketz is working with Greg, and Wayne and Greg together are funding Hobson, who used to work for the RRBA, and they're mowing the parks and they're picking up litter, and it's wonderful. And we also maintain the park. I would say it's everybody's responsibility. The more effort we put into those parks, the nicer the parks are going to be. The more people are going to take advantage of using the parks and enjoy the parks, the more the criminals are going to go out of the area, and the more our house values are going to go up, and the more we're going to be able to enjoy living in this area. So I would encourage everybody to take it upon themselves to help us with the parks. And if you see people throwing their garden refuse over the wall into the parks, please ask them not to do that. Ask them politely. It happens.
Obviously, if we had a lot more members, we could somehow employ somebody permanently to just do that.
Just clean the parks, yes.
Yeah, to clean the parks
Yeah.
permanently and cut the grass and paint the beds, garden beds and so.
Yeah, and on that note, Quinton, yeah, let me just say, if you've got neighbors who you know are not members, please encourage them to join. And if new people move in next door to you, please let us know and let them know about us so that we can try and talk to them and persuade them to become members. Because the more people there are to contribute to our community, the cheaper it is for us and the more we can get done and the better we can build this community up.
We've done the security. So somebody just refers back to the security, the changing of the security partner, and they didn't receive any communication with this regards to the process. There was a lack of transparency in a crucial segment in our community. So,
I'll phone you tomorrow.
yeah, you know what? That's a discussion we've had previously. Just from an RRVA security perspective, we still tick all the boxes that we previously ticked. There's no need for concern. We still do exactly what we previously did, or what the security company did for us previously. They're currently doing for us now. And this was the CCTV service provider. That was our previous security company, which was CSS. So yeah, from a security perspective, some people have raised concerns, but there shouldn't be any concerns to be raised really. The guys are permanently in our area. They do what we ask them to do. And at the end of the day, it comes down to and that's from the RRVA perspective, the general outlying area and what we as a community want them to do. And then it comes down to what the security company needs to do for you at your house. If it's armed response, then you're gonna have to match up all these different service providers. And then it really comes down to something small, you know, if somebody is not in the area, has a permanent vehicle in the area, let's say ADT or there's some of the other companies, then but they have one close by, then you can probably match that up to somebody that has a vehicle dedicated in the area if that's your preference. But they're very much the same. And like I said, all the boxes that we went out have been ticked on, like walking the green belt, locking the gates, and all those sort of things are being done currently.
Yes, and just to add to that, Quinton, we took the decision to appoint a new security service provider very seriously. We consulted our members in February with a security survey. We'd had lots of discussions with all sorts of stakeholders before that, from John Rosenberg at the Community Police Forum to individual members to meetings with CSS. It wasn't something that was done lightly, and our members voted.
No, we actually had a stream session, we had a voting session.
We made a recommendation. The security committee did their homework. They did a very thorough job, and we put the cards on the table. We said to the members, we've got two choices. You either stay with CSS and we go bankrupt, or we go to EC Security. It was a no-brainer decision. I think 93% of our members agreed.
91 points.
Yeah, less than 10% disagreed. So it was a landslide vote in favor of changing, and I believe it was for the better. The organization is stronger as a result. I think the security's never been better as a result.
Yeah,
we've got more patrol cars now than we've ever had before. CSS is still doing their patrolling.
Now, we've had a lot of positive feedback, especially because we see the clients that have had armed robberies or,
from the care committee side,
from their care committee side, and a lot of them have responded how EC Security have come to the party and been absolutely phenomenal.
That's great.
Which,
Yeah.
Okay, the projects that the RRPA wants to do, how are they selected and approved? I think that some of the recent unhappiness has been because people felt left out. Can it perhaps be a bit more democratized?
Yes, fantastic. This is your opportunity at the open forum to make proposals. You can always send us an email making proposals, and we do whatever we can, given the resources that are available to us and the time that's available to us. If we had 10 times as much money, we could probably do 10 times as much. And if we had 10 times the number of volunteers, we could also do 10 times as much. I'm a little bit limited. I spend at least a day a week on the RRVA. And, sometimes you just have to deal with the current crisis, if there is a current crisis, and you've got to put the nice to-do projects on a back burner. For the last year, I've been mostly preoccupied with the corporate governance exercise, overhauling the corporate governance documents. That was a huge endeavor. It was very time consuming. And there's lots of ideas that I've got, and we'll share them with you gladly if you have the time. But we decide as a committee and we decide as directors, we prioritize things, and it would be very nice to say, well, let's boom all the streets. But unfortunately, we just don't have the capital to do that right now.
Maybe if I can just add to that. So one of the things in the next couple of months that we're definitely going to focus on is, like, from a military perspective, to make sure our boundaries of the RRVA is secure. We want to do security first. Historically, a lot of a great percentage of the money went to security, so we want to make sure that all entrances to the RRVA has detailed IP cameras with full HD quality resolution that will allow us to identify number plates, have number plate recognition cameras, like Barrett said earlier, that connects back to a database of suspect vehicles that were reported, or police in incidents in and around our area, or South Africa. I think it is even the number plates. So as soon as a vehicle comes into our area, we know. So as soon as EC Security's vehicle gets dispatched. So the idea is to secure our area first, right? I mean, that's the number one thing that we want to do. We are very ambitious about the fact to investigate the inclusion of some of these areas, putting boom gates and close of some other areas. It is a detailed process. Once again, that's a security element. But in order to do that, we need to get a consultant on board that would go to the council and lodge this for us. They know the processes, how to do it, and how to obviously fund for it to go through.
And they've got the time.
And they've got the time, So we've done some homework already. We've already drawn a map of how we would want it to an extent to be done. That we did it this week. So that's going to be eventually when we have an idea of what we want to put at some of these boom gates, like also number plate recognition that automatically lets cars in the area through, or ability to swipe a hand, takes a picture of the person, and that just opens the gate, you can go through. Whatever technology needs to be deployed, we have to investigate and get an idea from the attorneys that's going to lodge this for us. Other projects, like, there's so many that we thought of, great ideas and that we would just want to deploy, like the bat houses was one that we recently did, that was a sort of a spur of the moment sort of thing. But you've talked about it for how long already, and it was been on the back burner for quite some time. So as soon as if there's a nice project that comes up and somebody's got some time to invest into it, to get some quotes, to do a detailed report on it and present it to the committee, then those sort of things can happen quite easily, subject to us having funds to spend on it. So if any of the members have any ideas that they would like to table, maybe even if they want to be part of the process, or maybe if it's just for that one project that they would want to see how it gets done, or contribute to getting quotes and assist us rolling it out, that will be great. So we are open for any suggestions, really. But I've got a Pinterest page full of things that I would like to do, from a marketing and an environment and a security committee, so I'll throw myself in all the committees as the time. So, but I'm ambitious about sort of projects like this, and if we had the funds or had more members or more people that can contribute, it would be great.
Can I ask you something? Also, it's actually nice to see, you know, I'm a committee member, I'm not a director, but to see the energy and the enthusiasm that is now coming through from directors and members, trying to get things together, pull the community together, which has been quite a tough job. We've got quite a few critics out there, keeps us on our toes. We're all people, we make mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, we try and do things for the betterment of the community, and I think that's what people actually need to remember.
Yeah.
We don't get paid for what we do. We do it because we enjoy it, especially on my side with the care committee. I mean, nothing to myself, but there's people that are harmed in some way. Wouldn't you like it if somebody came and said, can I help you?
Just hold your hand.
Just that
The phone.
cup of tea, I'm here on the other
Amazing.
side of the phone,
Yeah.
call me.
Have you cancelled your cards?
Yeah.
Yes. It makes
Can
a
we get
huge
you a new
difference.
SIM?
Somebody that can bring some logic to
And yes,
Not a
we're not
great
going to be
situation.
perfect. We would love more people to participate and to join committees. Come and help us on the care side, come and help on the finance side. I think Rod's doing a fantastic job on the infrastructure in the area, because if there wasn't somebody policing that, can you imagine what's going to happen in 10 years' time?
that's what we.
Yeah, so very
Well, probably
fortunate
the
to have
biggest
lots
thing
of
is our
expertise.
workload would also be a lot less as well.
Yeah,
So
so
we
you wouldn't
have
have
a
so
lot
much
of
work
work
to
to do,
join
yes.
us because we'll split it.
So just a thought for everybody out there.
Yeah.
You know, and Robin, thanks for making the point that this isn't a way to get rich. We don't get paid anything. So if you think of making money and you want to make money, this is not the place.
You know, and every time I think about the same argument we're having now is, if there wasn't something like this, where would we go? What will happen? How could you raise your concerns? How would you get that lamp pole fixed outside your house? How would you get that pothole fixed? How would you do any of that? Yeah, before you know it, a couple of people will stand together and say, we need to get a committee going or some residents association. They'll try and do it again, and it will take months or years for them to get.
Yeah,
we have that.
We've
So
already
we're
got it.
in a great position, a fortunate position, where we are already with hundreds of members. And I mean, thanks to all of them, all of you, that's the only way we can sit here today and actually do the things we do.
And the members must also see, and non-members, that we are human. You
Yeah,
know, we make mistakes. You know, things happen. We try and work around it. We try and learn from that. We try and do it for the betterment of the community.
you corner off, well, if you take 30 minutes between two meetings of your actual work to try and finish something that you're supposed to do, bound to make mistakes. But yeah,
I've got two, but I can answer them. The one is there any feedback on the road resurfacing petition? So what has happened there, I've sent the petition off to all the councillors, to JRA as well, they've been copied in on it. So we have to be patient. It is City of Joburg, so I can't tell you when or what, but it has been put on their list.
Yeah, it can take 3 or 4 years. I know from experience.
And then Joe Assad has asked how many people voted for the security change. So there were 37 people that actually voted, 33 in favour, and I think there was 2 not in favour.
And an abstention.
And yes, and abstain, yeah. And now, another ex-member has asked, if security companies are all the same, why invest in one single security provider?
Think of the practicalities of giving the money to several. I mean, how would anybody be accountable? They could all say, well, it wasn't my fault, it was my competitor. I don't know how you do that.
and how do you evaluate that? How do you evaluate their performance? If you're just one guy sitting on the security, well, 2, but Barrett is the only, he's the director of the security, the manager of that committee of the security, and he has to sit down with 7 security companies, evaluating all of them to see if any of them went out of the area at any specific time.
It's
Or
hard enough
it's a
managing
bit like
one.
fibre providers. You know what? Everyone has a different special every month. You end up picking one. You're not going to go with all of them. You're not going to go and plug them all into your house. That would just be crazy.
Yeah.
You're sucking it up, and you go with one and you move forward.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said earlier, the security company that we selected was for things to be done for the community. You know, those aren't things for your neighbor's house. He's got his own security. If he wants to use whoever he wants to use, it's up to him to do that. I mean, there's no, if one company can walk the green belt, everybody can walk the green belt. They're open to it. But we have to evaluate somebody to see whether or not they're actually doing it. And to evaluate 10 companies is impossible.
Another one from Stefan. Might I suggest that you publish potential projects and invite people to comment before doing so? The bat house thing is awesome, but might have been even better with more community input.
Is that Stefan from Kapdoorn?
I'm not sure, Stefan is.
Okay, we can do that. I'm just trying to think about.
So it is. It is to an extent already on the web because all our minutes from a marketing perspective, we've minuted all our meetings that list upcoming and future prospects and things that we want to tackle. So that's already been uploaded. Yeah, so there's definitely some that's not on there. I mean, the camera component that we want to redo now is not on there, but it's a given that it needs to be done. So I guess we can have a section on the website for future development.
Donna, can you help us put that together in the next week? And just ask us all for our ideas and then publish it. And will you send Stefan an email?
Like
Just
a work in progress and then
confirm
the
that,
upcoming,
Yeah.
something like
It's a
that.
good idea.
And a place for people's comments so they can have their say. So we can
Well,
take that into
what could actually
consideration.
happen in there is we might be able to actually display potential projects on our website. And off that, obviously, you can then email us. It's obviously an idea.
Yeah.
We can list a bunch of things on the website of prospective
Ideas.
projects that we're doing
Yeah.
or potentially
I mean,
wanting to do.
There's many that I can think of now that I didn't
Yeah,
even mention tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Stephen Sudi had an idea that we encourage members to grow vegetables in their gardens, and then the surplus they bring down to our office, and we just put them on a table every Tuesday morning, every Wednesday morning, once a week. And anybody that's hungry can come and help themselves to free vegetables.
Yeah.
It's a really nice idea.
And the proclaimers cards idea.
Yes,
I've got
the
an idea
bicycles.
an idea for flower lamppost things. There's so many.
Garden competitions, the pavement competition, who's made the pavement the most beautiful. There's lots of things that we can do. So if people have ideas, I'd really urge them to come and volunteer and get involved and drive those ideas to conclusions.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, the only way a project would really be successful is if somebody with ambition to do that project attends to it. And if I have ambition about something and everybody likes it, I'm going to drive my ambition for that project.
An idea is just a potential possibility until such time as somebody makes it into a practical reality. And that's what we need, people who have the energy and drive and time and determination to see things through to their conclusion.
Another one from Neil Cole. Can you advise what the percentage the RRBA will be paying for security now or a monthly amount, since you mentioned you were paying 130,000 Rand per month to CSS?
Yeah, that 130,000 Rand included VAT. And it's a very difficult question to answer because we have an agreement with EC Security whereby the more of you that sign up with EC Security as members, the less we have to pay them. And eventually, if enough people sign up, we won't have to pay them anything or very little every month. But then they do charge us for additional things. They will charge us for call-outs if people press their panic buttons and they have to come out. So every time we have to pay them for that. And every time somebody requests a tackling service, we'll have to pay for that.
Yeah, but they also said if we reach, they did give those figures, but they did say if we reach 150, if they reach 150 members in the area, then the services to the RRBA will be free of charge. So that's that's the direction we want to take. But if it's not, and we don't get to those numbers, then the shortfall multiplies by a certain amount will give us the difference that we need to pay them every month.
It's a sliding scale depending
Yeah,
on how
but if
many
there was no members,
people
then the
sign up.
cost would have been about 65,000 rand a month.
So I think in the near future, we will have to pay something like 60,000 rand a month.
Yeah,
But hopefully, as more members subscribe with them, that'll come down.
yeah, a lot.
Yeah, and then we can
substantially.
allocate those funds to
Something like
room
booms
projects or
or
whatever.
jungle gyms in the park and bat houses and owl houses and dustbins and nice signage, educational signage and things like that.
Some of those boards and see the road that says you're traveling at 96 miles an hour.
That would be a good place to
Can
put
you
that.
Telling
make
people
not,
how fast
please?
they're driving.
I haven't received any more.
Okay, cool.
I think we should probably call it a night there and thank everybody. My last slide is probably the most important slide that I mustn't forget. How do I? Yes, I need to just say a special word of thanks. Before I do that, I've just thought of one other thing. Right at the beginning of this meeting, I was supposed to ask somebody to propose and second the minutes from the last meeting. Is there anybody who can do that quickly? Has anybody read the minutes of the last meeting?
Last over there. That was last.
Jennifer wrote them. Maybe Jennifer can propose them.
Yeah.
Somebody out there, please propose and second the adoption of the minutes from the last AGM. Anyway, while you do that, I just want to say a special vote of thanks, a special thank you to my wife, Christine, and my daughter, Robin, who have been very supportive of me working on the RRVA and abandoning them for days. And also my fellow directors. Now, I've got to add Barrett to that name because he just whispered in my ear, and I'm going to take him up on his offer before he can change his mind. He said he wouldn't mind being a director just tonight while we're sitting here. So, thank you very much, Barrett.
Nice.
Thank you,
Straight jackets.
and thank you, Heather. I can honestly say it's
Comes in the welcome pack, the straight jacket.
it's been a privilege and an honor to work with you guys. Thank you very much. And then to the committee, to Barrett again, because he was a committee member before now, and to John, who isn't here tonight, and Jennifer, who isn't here tonight, and Robin, who is here tonight, and Kasturi, who isn't here tonight, probably watching online. And then to Donna and Kirsten, who've manned our office, or run our office for us. Thank you very much for the hard work that you ladies do. And then I'd like to thank Mark Hockman. Mark, I met the other day. He became a member and he expressed an interest in what we do to the extent that he made a video, a promotional video. If you haven't seen the video, you might want to have a look. Where can people see it? On the internet? On this web?
No, I think they're going to have to ask us for it because it's too big for
Is it too big for the website? Okay, Mark made a really nice video.
There's a link for YouTube.
There's a link. So
Yeah,
there's a link.
Yeah.
Maybe we can send that link again and just ask members to post it on their street groups. It might be good for canvassing support. So Mark, thank you very much for that firstly. And then secondly, Mark donated a set of a baton and these, what do you call them? Targets or Smarties beacons, which Barrett showed you we installed in the park. So this forces the security guard, it makes the security guard have to walk a certain route every time, every shift to go and swipe the baton. And that's thanks to Mark. He donated that to us. And then to the ward councillors, Beverly and Wendy, I know I'll give you guys a hell of a hard time if you're listening. Thank you very much and forgive me. John Rosenberg of the Honeydew Peace Forum, he's been very supportive. Thank you, John. Rrva Blino from the Randburg Sun, he's a journalist, and he's given us some nice exposure. On the day that the lockdown started, he did a lovely front page story about the dam. Last week he did a story about our cleanup. Thank you, Rrva. And then lastly, to all of you guys, our members, our valued members, thank you for your confidence in us, and thank you for your ongoing and continued support. Without you, nothing would be possible. Please keep supporting us, keep us accountable, and please help us grow the membership. And let's work together as closely as we can. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Rrva.
Thanks, Robert. No, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And thanks for letting us use
Let's be honest.
your